Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host, Nathaniel Perrant, and I am so thrilled to have our special guest, Shane Barker, here today, who is the CEO and founder of TraceFuse and the first Amazon TOS compliant negative review removal system. We're going to be talking about the importance of trust and integrity in the workforce and in the world, how that hasn't changed. And, you know, like you've worked for over 25 years in marketing and you've worked with Fortune 500 brands, Shane. You're a recognized influencer. And we were just talking before the show, you've had like a long running podcast. You've done over 300 episodes. So, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I love the presence and energy you bring. So I'd just like to invite you to let our listeners know more about you. What's your story and what brings you here today?
Yeah, Nathaniel, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. And I was really, I don't know, I still am very, very excited about being on the podcast because I love your guys' premise, man. It's you guys are trying to make the world
Thank
a better
you.
place. And I also saw you guys' website. You got, I like the kids. I saw the little kid, and it looks like it was in maybe Vancouver or something, Canada. Anyways, it was
Yep,
awesome. I looked at that and I thought, hey, that's the vibe that I'm looking for. So I love it. Thank you so
that's
much for
awesome.
having me today. So yeah, so my name is Shane Barker, as you said. I've been in the digital space for I think we say 20 years, but you can tell from the gray beard, it's probably been 25 to 30 years. It's been a long time. I always had grew up in the digital space and really had started my blog. I probably got to get the exact date. It's probably 18 years ago where we started writing about marketing stuff and
Okay.
how we can help agencies and small businesses to be able to, educate them on things that we're doing right, things we're doing wrong, and how they can be able to be a better marketer. And so we were one of the first websites to really start talking about marketing and how they,
Mm.
really kind of giving up some of the secret sauce, some of the things that we were doing there. I remember other marketers weren't super happy about it, but now everybody's doing it. So that was kind of cool. I used to teach at UCLA as well.
Okay.
I taught the influencer marketing program. So long history in the digital space. I've always had my own businesses, except when I first started off, I started off as a busser at a Mexican restaurant that we grew to. Anyways, I ended up going and traveling around and opening restaurants for them. So,
Oh, cool.
anyways, I grew up in the service industry. So my thing is always, how can you give back, right? I mean,
Mm.
that's always been kind of the premise. Because I was raised by hippies in California, so it was always a very loving environment and hold hands and hug and very physical. And then I jumped into the restaurant where it's like, hey, service beyond expectation. So
Mm.
that's where my ability, or I guess my desire to help people, has always come forward, right? In
Mm.
regards to that, it's like, hey, if we can make the world a better place. We touched on this before the podcast. It's like, man, if people would smile a little more, if people would, I mean, there's some things that we could all do to help improve just mankind, right? I mean, to
Yeah.
be able to be a better person. So that's why I'm really excited about the podcast. But yeah, so my background has been, once again, digital space. I used to own a bar in Chico, California. So that's a many moons ago. And now I have the company TraceFuse that we help, we really help sellers on the Amazon space be able to remove critical reviews, so reviews that violate Amazon's guidelines. So,
Mm.
and we're going to obviously talk about that today, about trust and other things that obviously play into that, and kind of what we do. And, our big thing is not necessarily just removing any reviews that you don't like.
Mhm.
It's reviews that break Amazon's guidelines. But really, the other
Mm.
thing you need to look at is that when you get a bad review, that doesn't mean it's all bad, right? I mean,
Right.
we all start with a product or a service, and when we put I call it our baby, right? When we
Mhm.
put that out for the world to see, not everybody's gonna. I hate to say not everybody's gonna like your baby. That sounds terrible, but not everybody's gonna like your product or service, and
Yeah.
so we have to be able to take that with an open heart and say, okay, the criticism I'm getting, hey, how can I make it a better product or a better service, right?
Yeah.
Because everything that we launch, if we launched something 10 years ago, I guarantee you that it's different today, right? And
Sure.
what you provide, maybe who your audience is. And so we have to look at, like, how do we evolve, right? How do we
Mhm.
make that better? And so, reviews are going to be a very, very important part of that. But there's some things that I think that we'll probably talk about, how to keep things authentic and, once again, try not to take
Yeah.
things personally, and then what you can do to make sure that, you still stand out in a crowd and good things are happening for you.
No, that's awesome, man. You and I share a background in service. My first job was as a busser as well, and you seem like a real people person. And I love I love the era we're in. I feel like we're in, there's so much talk about like the emergent technologies. It's the AI age, but I really feel like it's the age of transformation. And I feel like there's this hunger for community and authenticity that people are looking for in the marketplace. I feel like a lot more people are looking to support like people who have a story to their product and people who are showing up authentically rather than maybe some of these like faceless big brands that are, maybe just focused solely on profit and are not maybe selling things that are necessarily good for us, so
Yeah.
I think this topic of trust and integrity is it's always been vital, but maybe even more so now as we enter into an AI saturated market where there's so much stuff that's just flying and people are feeling a little overwhelmed and maybe looking more for that human trust, so that's an important component.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I think, as we get to AI, where you're like looking at pictures and going, is this real or is this AI? It's like, I think it kind of makes it feel like we're in space a little bit. It's like,
Mhm.
I do believe that being grounded and being connected, more connected, there's going to be a lot more of that. There's going to be plenty of AI stuff, but definitely AI is not going to replace, well, I probably shouldn't say this, but the human touch, right? Of
I
that
don't think it will,
connection,
man.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it will either. I think, right now where AI, I think if you're using it, should be to supplement, what you're currently doing, or,
Yeah.
to better understand it. But I don't think it's going to come in and, replace 10,000 employees. I don't think that's going to be a situation, because there's still going to be that human interaction that is going to be needed, right? That is
Mhm.
important. I mean, we did that at TraceFuse. The reputation management space, most of the sites that are out there are very faceless, right? Not to
Mhm.
say that they're all AI, but I put my face on the company of TraceFuse because I wanted it to help build trust, right? I want
Yeah.
people to know, hey, there's a face, there's a human behind this. And we did that very strategically, because not because I want to be out there and have the whole world see who I am. I don't really care if people know who I am or if they don't. But it was more of a, hey, there's
Mhm.
a face behind the brand, which
Yeah.
has really, really helped us, because we were removing reviews on Amazon and people were like, oh, is this legal? Is it black hat? Can you do it?
Yeah.
I'm like, I put my face on there because I have a long history in the digital space.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I taught at UCLA, and that doesn't mean I'm not a crook, right? But I've just, in theory, that gives some validity to the history and what I've done. And so what I wanted people to do is to be, well, okay, hey, we can look this up. We see this guy. We see that that he's done some stuff online. He's been around for a long time. He's got a good name, and great. This is, kind of takes down that barrier of the trust that might not be there, because if you're working with a company that doesn't have a face, or or anybody that you can recognize.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, man. Like I think above all else, human beings were social organisms. Like we are, and I like to really see us as I'm very much a holistic thinker. My background's in Indigenous wellness, so
Mm.
I've often wondered about what is the like purpose and meaning on all this, but what's really like the glue between all of us. And there's this sentiment in Anishinaabe culture, and others. It's all my relations, and that we're related to everything and everyone. And I feel like a lot of um, the colonial mindset that has come in and interfered with basically indigenous cultures all over the world has been a lot about creating the illusion of separation, even creating like scarcity marketing and things to to influence our behavior. As we've all gone through the industrial age, but now people are looking more for a grounded, like holistic connection to the land. They want to be well. We're people are, and now we have access to so much more information. So, like you said, I mean, someone can just type your company up, look for you, say, okay, he's a real person, he's legitimate. He has a history here, and we need that. I feel like it's so important that level of. I mean, someone's not gonna. There's two things, right? And you probably talk about this a lot in marketing. It's like, do someone like you, and do they trust you? And if you don't have those two, you might hire someone that you trust and don't like to do a job,
Yeah.
but you're not going to keep someone around that you don't trust. That's kind of like the
Yeah.
the baseline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%. I didn't know your background was that. That's awesome. My dad used to read just indigenous books. That was his big thing. He was
Okay.
always reading about it. So that's awesome. There's a definite connection there. My dad was always very, like I said, kind of grew hippie roots,
Yep.
but he loved that. He would spout off the Indians here and that happened here, the Native American. It was so awesome, and I
Yeah.
learned a lot as a kid. But that's awesome. You have the background in that. That's killer.
Yeah, there's so many beautiful cultures, and I feel like sometimes the Western culture, we don't always see the culture as it is, and I feel like there's been that disconnect from recognizing that we are connected to nature. Like we can't remove ourselves from nature. Even like there's a sentiment that we are the land. Like my spirit name is Ondakin. One of my spiritual grandmothers gave that name to me, and it means that my name carries me. It means to keep the land. So if you would have found me in my downtime, especially during the lockdowns and stuff, I'd be like barefoot in the forest, like picking up the forest, doing firewood and stuff, because I feel like that connection to our mother is so important. So, can you talk a little bit about, like, with respect to that, like this trust, this connection, Shane, it's so important. And also, I feel like people are looking more for things that are, there's the term sustainable. I think it's a baseline, but people are looking for things that are more harmonious to keep that trust and keep that relationship, not just between human beings, but also with our greater world. Yeah, maybe you could talk about like the trends that you've noticed over your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, I mean, I am in full agreement with you on the. I think people are looking for a little bit of a deeper connection, right? Maybe not everybody, but I do believe that. I mean, like, give you an example for myself. I used to live in California. I now live in Reno, Nevada. We did that because we wanted to be closer to the mountains, right? And I've
Okay,
got
cool.
dogs, and we wanted to be, a little more grounded, right? And because Sacramento is where I grew up, but it's not crazy busy city. But when I taught at UCLA, I would fly down to UCLA, and that's, and LA is obviously going to be a lot busier than Sacramento. And we decided to come to Reno because it's even quieter.
Mm,
I mean, there's still, there's some folks here and there's gambling and there's some things, but we just really enjoy the hikes and the being able to be
beautiful.
reconnected with the earth, right? Because I think that is important. I would say a lot of the issues I believe, in not necessarily just on health and just things, is when you start to get disconnected from the earth. I do believe that there is a connection there. And I've
Hmm.
always had a strong connection there. Once again, just being raised by people that were more conscious, I would say, right? More
Yeah,
understanding of what we do. We do a lot of hiking and a lot of camping and a lot of, like, getting in there and getting your hands dirty and really touching the earth. And I always joke around about it, but I am a hippie at heart. Like, I do love, and I say hippie as in I do love that connection, right? And
yeah.
I realize when I start to get away from that connection, if I go out and go on a hike and I go do something, I can feel that connection. I can feel like, all right, I'm back to getting more grounded to where I need to be. And I think it happens with careers and it happens with all kinds of stuff. I do believe there is that energy that we start to, you start to kind of disconnect from that. And that's something that I think that people have to look at and say, hey, am I disconnecting, and why am I disconnecting, right? Well, what does
Yeah.
that look like, right? And is it adding more value to my life, or is it taking away from my life? Like, I can tell you myself, I used to work 18 to 20 hours a day,
Mm.
and I was very disconnected from just anything outside of work. And so that was very unhealthy for me, right? I mean, I was 40 pounds heavier. I was doing energy drinks. I was eating just anything that was put in front of me. I'm ignoring my family. I mean, there was a lot of things, and that's when my disconnect. Now, I was doing it in the name of, I had a business and I had 120 employees, and that's, I'm not saying it's justifiable, but it's like, oh, I'm just busy. I got to do all this, and it's like, well, what we were doing, it wasn't like I was a brain surgeon, right? Like, if I'm a brain surgeon and I decide to take a week off and I just ignore my appointments, well, people die. That's probably would suck, right? But what we do is, like, it's important, but it's not that important, right? Like, and I started to figure out, like, hey, how do I divide up my time better, right? Because work-life balance is important, and it's kind of a cliche thing what people say, but I had no work-life balance. I was
Yeah, of
all work, and that's affecting my wife and my son, and it
course.
affects a lot of different things that I'm getting more disconnected from what I really enjoy, right? And
Mhm.
that can be outdoors, that can be those types of things. So, I've seen that. I do believe now. I hang out with people that like to hike and a lot of that stuff. So I do hang out with the people that are a little more grounded, I would say. And I have plenty of friends that you start to see that start to go in different directions, and it really comes down to what makes you happy
Mhm.
and how do you stay connected. If staying connected is important to you, and were you happier when you're connected, or were you happier when you're not connected? Well, most of the time is when there's that connection, and when you're fostering that connection. I mean, I just, as an example, I walk about 10 miles a day, not even just
Awesome,
hiking.
man.
I love that. Like, for
Yeah,
me, it helps clear my mind. It
yeah.
helps me get out there. I get to see, I'm sending pictures of birds to my wife and squirrels, and just stuff that I enjoy that, because
Mm,
that's my time to get grounded, think things through. It
yeah,
just is very, very beneficial. And anybody that's listening to this, it's important that you have some kind of, I would say, way out, right? Like,
yeah.
business is business. It's like, it's going to be there. You can always make more money, but guess what? One thing that I realized during COVID that was was kind of didn't shock me, but it was like an aha moment was we don't know when our time is, right?
Hmm.
Not to
Hmm.
get into death and all that, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, we can.
Like, I
Yeah.
ignored, my son for X amount of just working. It's like, well, what happens if something happened to him? And I
Yeah.
didn't have that time while he's on this earth. I mean, my son's still around, and thank goodness, and my wife is doing amazing. But my point is like, what are we here to work and just
Hmm.
hustle and make money? And is it to get a Rolex, to get 10 Rolexes, is it to get 80 cars? Like, or is there a deeper connection
Yeah.
with being out and going doing stuff and things that make you feel good? It doesn't always have to be money driven. And I've had to retrain myself because growing up as a kid, I was like, my family was very frugal. We still had enough and doing the stuff. But what I looked at was like, if I asked my mom, hey, can I get a soda? She's like, well, first of all, it's a soda, and that's 35 cents. Like, I'm not paying 35 cents. And I was like, oh yeah, I was just kidding. And so what I had to realize was growing up, I was like, I'm gonna make $1 million. I'm gonna do this. And it was all very materialistic driven and money driven. And I call that Shane 1.0, right? I was very, and then Shane 2.0 and 3.0. Now, projects and things that I do, I mean, the premise is to help people. That's always been my premise, but money's not always the number one thing, right?
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
I've had to look at this and say, hey, is this is this a project that I'm going to enjoy working on? Am I passionate about it? And am I excited about who I'm working with? Right.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that. That is really, really important to me now because the money is not quite as important a factor as it used to be. That used to be the premise. A person could be a jerk, but I'm like, hey, but I'm making 10 grand a month from them, so I got to keep them. Now I would drop you in a hot second if you talk to my employees, you're cussing, like doing things that are disrespectful.
Hmm.
I give you one chance, we have a conversation. And then if you continue that, I don't care if you're bringing me $1 million contract. That's not the high priority for me anymore. It's treat people with respect. And if you have a problem with something, then great. We use our words and we try to figure it out and make things happen. But we have to be respectful. We have to treat each other with respect as humans. And I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. It's like, hey, that is so important, right? If we all just looked at this and said, hey, this is a human being on the other side, and how can we make things better, right? Knowing that we both might have different points of view on things,
Hmm.
stuff like that. But once again, our goal is to help each other out. I think should be anyways.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Shane, and I really appreciate, you finding that balance between that connectivity, doing what you love, and also serving people. I would hazard to guess when you do those things, you surround yourselves with people who are uplifting, you do what you love, you focus. The money you're going to make, not only it feels better, but it's probably going to be more in the long run because it's a sustainable path and it's a path you can actually grow on, right? So I think it's admirable that you've done that. And on the topic of walking, I think walking is one of the most underrated things we can do for our health. It gets you, it puts you in the flow. It's contralateral movements. We're getting fresh air. Like we're built to walk and
Yeah.
and move, right? And a lot of people think the purpose of the brain is to think, but really the majority of the brain and the cerebral cortex and everything is to move the body, and we're
Yeah.
so we're so multidimensional. I have this book called you might like it. It's called Original Strength, and it's about learning to be on the ground doing groundwork, moving the head and it's mimicking all the things that babies do, like rolling and rocking and all
Uh,
the things. And it's about really developing what's called our vestibular system, which is the part of our body that is our balance and it gives us our sense of proprioception where we are in space. So walking is one of the best ways to do that. It's such a core thing. I'm a big walker too, man. So I appreciate you. And on the topic of marketing, one of the things that came up, for me as I was reading your bio too, is I thought a lot about like what is marketing at its core level. And in that word to me, I feel like I reach back into time and our ancestors, and it would be people bringing their contributions, bringing their goods to an actual marketplace. But a lot of that has changed in the digital age, and it's taken on this like different kind of energy. And there's a lot of like hustlers out there, is like trying to get as much as they can instead of like really that idea of like, this is my authentic contribution. So can you like maybe share you have a grounded view, like what is marketing at its core level?
yeah. I mean, marketing the way that I look at marketing, it should be something that should be shared, right? So that's why I started the blog, is because, shanebarker.com, is because I wanted to say, hey, I want to talk about the things that I'm doing right, things that I'm doing wrong, and be able to educate people, right? Because I don't, if you don't need to hire me and you read my blog and you got enough information, awesome, right? Like that's the way I look at things. And guess what? If you're meant to be a client of mine and you read my blog 10 times and finally you go, hey, this is a guy I want to hire. Well, guess what? I don't need to sell you on anything. You've read the blog, you understand the knowledge that I have. We'll probably have a conversation. I'm not going to, sell you on a package you don't need. I'm building trust. And I say, hey, listen, like I had a guy yesterday, literally, that I talked to, as a friend of a friend. And I just asked him, I said, hey, what's your budget? And he kind of froze for a second. And I said, well, I'm not saying that to be able to pull more money out of you. Right. I'm trying to do is set an expectation and figure out what we need to do to be able to get these things, get this thing up and going, and make sure there's a realistic expectation. The last thing anybody wants is to start a project and their budget is $10,000 and then you're all of a sudden you're 20,000 in, right? That's
Right.
not cool. So what I look at is marketing in the way I do things is I want to share. I want to be able to help people. I jump on, do free consulting. I do all that stuff for free. I used to do government work for the government during COVID, and I would help businesses for free. That was, the government would subsidize it. Now, it wasn't great money because it's the government, not a lot of cash there, but that wasn't my big thing. My big thing was like, hey, how can I give what I've learned through marketing? How do I give that back? And during
Yeah.
COVID was a time when restaurants were like, hey, I got to
Yeah,
go
totally.
online, and I was going to sell my business in 1 year. I've been doing this for 30 years, grinding it out, 10 hours a day, every day for the last 30 years. And now what do I do? And so I felt my thing was, hey, I got to be able to, if I have some knowledge that will help you be able to get your business back on track, then that's should happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, marketing to me is, once again, is really helping people, right? Is understanding the knowledge that you have, and then how can you educate people? Because running your own business, starting your own business is difficult. It's not an easy thing to do,
Yeah. I
right? And
hear you,
so,
man.
yeah, right. I mean, we all know, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you jumped in and tried to do your own business, it's, even if, I chefs that are like, oh, best chef in the world, oh, this is awesome. Well, guess what? You still have to know the front of the house,
Mhm.
right? You still have to, and then you have HR, and then you have this, you have all this other stuff. Like there's a lot of moving pieces. And so, if there's people out there that can educate and help out, and marketing, can be one of those ways.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is, and you kind of touched on this isn't like, even with TraceFuse as an example, I was the first one to market. I was the first one to come up with the concept. Like, even Amazon sellers were like, we didn't know this was possible. I have a few competitors now, but guess what? I don't mind that. Right. For me, I come from abundance mindset of like, hey, listen, if somebody's better than me and they can do it better than me, that's awesome. Like, because at the end of the day, we all want to help sellers,
Yeah.
right? As long as you're not coming in and saying false things or claiming things that aren't true or being fake, I will call you out publicly if you do that, because I look at like what we're doing is trying to protect the public, and what you're doing is lying to the public. And I don't,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you do put out good things. If you put out a good business and you have a good culture and you treat people with respect, it's not always going to be perfect, but you're heading in that right direction, right? And people get that. People will
Yeah.
know instantly if you talk to somebody. You can usually tell pretty quickly,
Mhm.
is this a good person or not, for the most
Mhm.
part, right? It's kind of
Mhm.
like dogs. Dogs can come up to
Yeah.
somebody and go, nah, I don't like that guy. There's something about him. I'm like, oh, I don't like him either, because I trust in dogs more than I do humans sometimes, a lot of the time. So, it's like, hey, but I think at the end of the day, if you come from a place of goodness, right, in your heart, and you want to do good things, whether it be marketing or insurance or anything, your business will grow as long as you treat people with respect. And
Mhm.
once again, you doesn't mean everybody's going to treat you with respect. You got to figure that out. And at what point do you pull the rug out from somebody or not? But the idea of this is just being a good person, and whether, like I said, whatever you do in life, just putting out the best you, and being able to, being able to help people if you can be able to offer that help. And guess what? It'll come back tenfold in whatever manner that happens.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. As you were talking, to me, the way I view money now is a lot different than I did before I began entrepreneurship. We think of money as a real thing that we're exchanging, but really the real thing that we're exchanging is the value. Helping
For
people.
sure.
That's the reality. I see money more as the network of exchange that allows the energy for us to continue to go. And I mean, there's so many beliefs that so many entrepreneurs and everyone really have been programmed with around money. And I see money now as a lot more of an expansive view than this what we've been trained to think money is as fiat currency that we know is debt notes, and we know all kind of the history. And now there's all these new kind of like emerging like crypto,
Yeah.
like blockchain technology and stuff is creating new forms of money. But really, money is just the energy that people are exchanging. But I think what's really valuable, Shane, is like it's the values. Like what you're saying is like, not all of us can help everyone. And some of us, and I think this is where we all play a pivotal role in building the world that we want to build, whatever we call it. Here on the show, we like to call it home for everyone. Like I envision a world where there's no homelessness because we truly live in community, and home is an acronym for heaven on Mother Earth. It's this idea that we can create this from a state of consciousness where we recognize our inherent value as individuals, and we all have a unique gift and a unique purpose. But so many of us, have gone through the indoctrination system, have kind of, felt, like squashed by beliefs or conditioned to maybe, stay quiet when marketing really requires the opposite, right? We gotta, like you said, if it's worth sharing, you gotta promote, you gotta speak out. And, for some people, whether it's cultural reasons or, family reasons, like we've been told, like, don't put your head up, don't. So it's like you kind of have to go against your own program nature a little bit when you get into the marketing world. So I appreciate that you're actually helping bridge that gap between businesses and people, really, because every business is a people business, right?
Yeah.
And you're helping to reestablish some of those foundational relationships. Can you talk a little bit more about trust as a whole and how important it is, and how maybe what are the top ways that you can establish and then maintain that trust from a business perspective?
Yeah, so trust is going to be very, very important. It's hard to get, and it's very easy to lose, right? And so that's what you have to, as a business, we have to think about, okay, how do we get people to trust us? And that's not by just saying that, hey, you need to trust us, right? Because that's great. But what we really need to do is we need to feel it, right? We need to know, hey, listen, this is the right person. And sometimes, you jump on with people and you're like, hey, I just something about this guy, that's okay, right? And I'll tell people, like, because I do all my own demo meetings for TraceFuse, right? Because I like to talk with sellers and understand how we can improve the software and stuff. At the end of the day, if it's not there, it's not there. Like, I don't try to force anything. Like, if they're asking questions and they seem very skeptical, I'll tell them, hey, listen, you seem very skeptical of the program. I don't think it's a good fit for you right now. Let's talk in a month or two, right? And people are like, well, I'm really taken back. Yeah, because I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to educate you. And if you don't trust me, or if you don't feel like it's the right thing for you, last thing I want, because I've done this in the past, is to sell somebody on something. This is old Shane. I'm like, oh, hey, we can make this happen. And the whole time there's a disconnect, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter the amount of money. It's like, listen, if we're not, the vibe check isn't there in the beginning, I'm okay with that, right? I'm not here to, if I have 100 people, there's probably, I would say 90 people that, hey, we're probably more than that, but the vibe's there, right? Like, hey, good energy, good things going on. We just have to figure out terms and what this looks like, and what is the value trade? What are we doing? Is it going to be money? Is it, time? What does that look like? Right. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, and they get lost in this, like, it's like, as we touched on, we're humans, right? And it's like, so what is the right thing, and how are we going to be able to work together, from the marketing perspective, and what does that look like, right? And what do those terms look like? Like I said, if every once in a while, like, it'll be like 1 out of 1,000 people that there'll be somebody that we just don't get along. Like, it's like this, like, almost like polar opposites energy. I don't know if it's them. I don't know if it's me. Not here to figure it out. It's just, that's the waves came, and it just didn't work out, and we went our separate ways. So, I think and those are things that I used to ignore for a number of different reasons. And now I don't, right? Now I look at it as like, hey, this is what it is, right? This is what that relationship is. We can agree to disagree. We can do this, we can do that. But at the end of the day, that trust is built over, usually we know instantly whether at least you're going to be one step closer to trusting somebody. Usually you'll know that when you're talking with somebody, and then that trust is built over time. And then it's important to keep that trust, right? It's important to do everything you can to keep that trust, without giving up who you are and what you believe in, right? Like, I was on a podcast yesterday, and there was a gentleman, big podcaster, that was talking about, really what it comes down to is that he had 2 different clients. One ended up being very racist and saying crazy stuff, and he's like, I let them go. And another one was LGBTQT. Anyways, I'm sorry, I always mess up the acronym. But the
Keep
point of it
scrolling.
was I know, yeah, exactly. And that was, and and he just said, hey, that just wasn't a good fit for me.
Yeah.
So what was awesome there was, for him, there's the trust just both ways. Not only do you trust who your provider is, but you have to, trust in the sense that if somebody starts saying something sideways, we're just, I don't, that erodes my trust in you, right? And I might not agree. We can agree to disagree, but if we're talking about things that can really affect other people, like racism and stuff like that,
Mhm.
I can't,
Right.
I'm not, I don't want to be a part of that, right? Like for me, it's like, hey, I'm here to tell you that I don't agree with that. I'm not here to argue with you. You do your thing, that's not gonna work for me and what
Mhm.
we've got. That's
Mhm.
where the trust can be eroded very quickly.
Mhm.
Very hard to get and very easy to lose. But you got to do what you feels good to you. And trust me, you'll find your tribe through that. You'll find the people that you trust, and those people will refer people and recommend people. I mean, marketing is awesome, but really what it comes down to, the best thing you can do in the world is get a referral from somebody that trusts you and believes in you. That's I mean, I don't even need to close anybody. I'm literally just kind of having a conversation with you. Hey, Bob Smith said you're awesome.
Yeah.
Great. I love Bob. I'm going to send Bob a nice little gift card. Thank him for, trusting you with my business. And guess what?
Yeah.
Now you and I are going to have a conversation. Let's see if we can make some magic happen.
Yeah. No, I love that, Shane. And you touched on a few really important points that I think are important to highlight. Like, knowing your own values, and like, to me, I know what my top three values, and I always look at them every cycle, every solar cycle that I go through. I always like, what are my top values? And it's interesting how we prioritize them too. Like, I recently switched from truth being my top value, and then unconditional love and freedom. And now I realize that generosity, freedom, and love. Well, love really is my top value.
Yeah.
Like, and I dropped the truth, and I realized, like, I'm not here to be the truth police. Like, the truth is just what it is, and people, we all have a
Yeah.
different perspective of it. But knowing those values and what's important to me, it helps me navigate not only my profound life and what people might call the personal. I like thinking of it as profound because I think we're all on a unique journey of discovering and remembering who we are. But it also helps me navigate in my professional life and what I will prioritize. And you bring up, like, to me, it's a shift to what you're saying, because we are entrained into thinking like scarcity mindset, like supply and demand and all this. But when you look at the marketplace, like, there is more than enough for everyone. Like, abundance really is the natural state. And then you can focus, like, I heard kind of under the lines, like the 80/20 principle, the power principle, like, focus on the 20% of clients that really are your true, the true people that you're meant to serve. Because a lot of the ones who make the most noise and are not sure, and you're convincing them, when they come into your ecosystem, they can just disrupt
Mess
things. And
things
they
up. Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's a really important mindset shift that you talked about, because I know there's so many, especially ones making that first dollar, that first 100K, even that first million to 3 million. Like, those are some big hurdles, and sometimes we're like, I need to take as much business as I can, but then burnout can be a real thing, right?
I know about that. Yeah, man, that's the thing, is you have to figure out where your priorities, right? And if it is business and it's to become a billionaire, I'm not here to say that's wrong, but then you got to figure out what are you going to give up to be able to do that, right? And
Mhm.
so, I look at that with, actors and people like that. Like, I would never want to be an actor. I don't care how much I made. I don't want to go out in public and people take pictures of me and my family, and you know what I'm saying? Like, that would
Yeah.
never work well for me, because but you signed up for that. And you might not realize you signed up, but you did sign up for that. And I
Yeah.
used to work with a lot of influencers, and that would, be, oh man, this, that, and no, I've got people saying this about me online. It's like, well, just know you put yourself out there for the world. I wish it was a little more positive, but you put yourself out there, right? And
Yeah.
so you gotta take the good and the bad, and that's, but I think it really comes down to, really be able to do, looking at what you want to do, and once again, how can you be a better person, and how can you give back.
Mhm.
I think is very, very important. Not necessarily because you're going to get it in reciprocation, but because you're putting out, that energy, and people know, man. I mean, I know that firsthand. When I talk to somebody, I can tell usually if you're a good person, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
because my initial reaction, I've talked to enough people where I'm like, hey, is somebody that I could absolutely get along with. This person has a big heart. This person cares. And I also know the people that are maybe not quite as caring, right? And maybe aren't as, so they're not going to be my close tribe, they'll be a little outside tribe, but my close tribe are people that, that aren't going to steal my energy, right? The people that are going to,
Yeah.
that we're going to have, we don't always need to be positive and always getting along, but it's like we're moving in a certain direction, right? And good things are happening.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And I think this concept of like conscious entrepreneurship is really important, right? Because we're entering into an age, we talked a little bit about it, like there's so many ways of automating, there's so many ways of creating content that can be artificial and being able to have that level of discernment to know like I mean, we've all heard this from top influencers, but who you surround with yourself with, the top five people, is so critical to, whether you're going to live a fulfilled life or whether you're going to be surrounded by criticism and doubt and judgment and be
Yeah.
squashed in your purpose, right? So it's such a key thing to make conscious decisions about. And and we don't always, because we tend to segment and separate, I feel, our personal life and our professional life. And sometimes, like you were talking about, like taking on a client, convincing them, well, you're going to be spending probably a lot of time helping a client, especially if it's like a big project or something. So like having that as a one way, where they're the only ones deciding, like, here's the money and do it for me. I mean, I think we're entering in a new era where like having that conscious decision making, anyways, I think it's a really critical conversation, and I love that you bring it, man, with especially with your background, being an influencer in the space for so long, being in the digital marketplace, and now helping, like a lot of online sellers to connect too, because we don't always see the time that goes behind someone who's setting up these storefronts and delivering products, or maybe they're like homegrown, handmade products and stuff. Like there can be so much time and energy that goes to this one little click link, that
Yeah.
opens up a thing. So, and like you said, a bad review that's out of alignment with the truth can really damage some of these businesses. And we've seen the effects of cancel culture in the last period of time we don't like talking about as a species. I feel like there's some
Yeah.
denial there that happened, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so I appreciate what you do, man, and I appreciate more. It's interesting. I didn't know how this conversation would fit with our audience, but I really
Yeah.
appreciate it, because when I was looking at it, I'm like, okay, canceling negative reviews, building trust. But you know what? I realized this is like a key element I think a lot of entrepreneurs figure out as they start learning about entrepreneurs. So you can be so focused on how do I do this? How do I, but it really is taking the horse before the cart, and it's the who.
Yeah.
And I appreciate who you are, because all your business, your community is going to be an expression of who you really are, right? So
Yeah.
man, it's awesome. I really like having you on the show. So thanks for
Yeah,
coming
this is
on.
all. Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I go on a lot of podcasts, but I love this. This is very much a very positive vibe. You got a great energy about you. I
Thanks,
love
brother.
the background. Yeah, just all the stuff, man. Like you never know who you're gonna meet on podcasts, and sometimes I leave and go, man, that's an awesome person, and you're on that list, man. You're on my
Oh, I
top three for
appreciate it,
sure.
brother. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it very
course.
much. Well, it's been a real unique journey here, and I appreciate all the wonderful guests that we have attracted. I can give 100% credit to Julia. She is really the backbone of the show. We do sometimes come in on try to interview as a couple, and she does interviews as well. But she is such a manager leader and has figured out all the technical stuff and all the aspects of setting up the podcast and attracting really solid guests like yourself. So I'm so appreciative for her. She's allowed me to kind of step into my natural element, because I've always loved people. I find, it's interesting. Maybe this is an interesting thing about me, but I find every individual so interesting, because whether they believe they are or not, and even if they are like slightly maligned or selfish or whatever, like I feel like we all have such a unique psychological, spiritual pathway that has allowed us to come to this now moment. And I just find, like, compared to a lot of other species, humans are so interesting in that regard. Like, we're such
Yeah.
individuals, and yet we are so social. Like, we're so interdependent. We so need one another. Like, we wouldn't survive as lone wolves in the forest very long.
Yeah.
Some people can do that. Like, I think that's a
Yeah.
special breed, but in general, like, we really do need one another. And that's what, when I think of marketing, I feel like that's what it is. It's like this market of people. It's like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I make. This is here. And it's an offering, right? It's like, is I'd like to improve your life if it resonates with you, if it can, you know? So, yeah, it's an interesting perspective. I appreciate your grounded perspective.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. That means the world to me. And once again, it's, and shout out to Julia for obviously putting this together and, making it happen. It's always nice when you have a nice yin to your yang, right? It's always
Oh,
nice. Like it's a blessing when that happens. I've been married for 20 years and I'm
congrats,
not just
man.
saying this because my wife can hear me. It's literally, it's awesome. She helps me in so many ways that I'm not great. And, I help her in ways that she's not great, but it's awesome, man. That's killer.
Yeah. Well, again, right, it's back to relationships in life and like whether it's doing business with people or who we surround ourselves with in family and community, it's so important. I actually think it's the only thing we get to keep, Shane, is our relationships.
Mm,
It's not like we leave with any of our possessions or our
yeah.
body or anything. Like I feel like the connections we meet while we're here, like and that we build on, that's really the legacy. And marketing is really a part of that, right? Because you're creating those bridges, you're creating products. Like a lot of people, business owners out there are creators, right? They're making
Yeah.
stuff, or they're making products, or they're innovating services. And we're going to see, I feel like in this age of huge change, we're going to see a lot more innovative things come about. What have you noticed, like changes in the marketplace in the time that you've been, since you've been an influencer, you've been in the market? I mean, we went from Web 1.0, which was like really, it was this weird place where nerds hung out and created these weird, sites that were like, I remember
Yeah.
like going on eBaum's World and like they had like the fractal art. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And then Web 2.0, I feel kind of ruined the game for a bit. It just became so money focused. Now we're
Yeah.
in Web 3.0, and I think we're going to leap to Web 5.0, where we're giving each other high fives in XR spaces or something. But
Yeah.
like, what trends do you notice, and what do you think like the real life impacts of these emergent technologies are going to have on our world and our species?
Yeah, I think it's going to, I mean, once again, depending on what that is, I think it, like anything, there's going to be change. So people are going to, either like it or not like it, right? So, I mean, it's naturally going to happen. We evolve as humans and technology helps us in some areas and hurts us in other areas, right? So I think there's going to be positive and negative, with AI, there's going to be great things. Hey, you can, like with TraceFuse, we're able to scale a lot faster because we have AI that goes through the reviews. And now we have to go. I mean, we're going through thousands of reviews on a daily basis. If you have a human
Amazing.
doing that, their eyes are going to pop out and bleed and all this stuff. And so we're like, hey, AI can make it. So we were able to use technology for
Mm,
I would say good. I mean, more positive to be able to scale. I think the thing is like once again, there's going to be technologies that help us as humans to be able to what I think you got to be careful of is once again going too far out, right? And losing that actual connection to whether it be the earth or your family or whatever that is. That's what you always, I mean, I always, now I look at it, I think of it as like I always have to kind of tap in a little bit, right? Like, oh, hey, I'm doing this and I'm kind of going down a rabbit's hole. Oop, I got to kind of tap in here. I'm going to
yeah.
go camping this weekend. I'm going to go do this. So I think it's important no matter what happens,
Mm,
whatever makes you happy, whether that's hiking, whether that's camping, whether that's spending time with your family, whether that's drinking a beer, whether that's going and whatever it is,
mm,
right? I'm not here to tell you what I mean, I'm telling you what works for me, but that might not
yeah.
work for you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, figure out what makes you happy. And that's going to, if you're a happier person, it's going to help your business. That's going to help you want to learn about new technologies. It's, that really is the premise of it. If you're not in control of your personal life or things that are out of control, you go in and trying to do other stuff, you're not grounded. You don't have that foundation. And so and sometimes we lose that foundation and you have to go back. But I just think it's important to, you know, self-assessment, take a
Mm,
look at things and saying, okay, where am I at today? Am I happy with the way things are going on? And if not, what is that? Okay, great. It's financial. Okay, great. Then maybe we work a little harder in those areas, but it's not always money, right? I think that's the hard part. When I was growing up, that was for me. It was like, oh my God, it's got to be another dollar. I got to make another dollar. And it's like, wait, you touched on it earlier. Like, I'm not leaving with my cash, right? I'm not
yeah.
leaving with my whatever I have, my house, my car. Like, I'm not leaving with that stuff. So, once again, how do I prolong my life and enjoy the life that I have here? And it's, it used to be materialistic things. I'm not saying I'm not materialistic because I do like some nice stuff, but at the end of the day, that doesn't bring me long-term happiness, right? And what does is me hanging out with my family, my poor wife that I'm like, hey, we should hang out this weekend. She goes, God, it's, I'm like, I could be the opposite and not want to hang out with you. I want to hang out with my wife all the time. I want to hang out with my son. I want to hang out with my dog. I really I lost connection to those relationships, and I'll never do that again. I don't care what it. If I had a consulting gig that would give me $1 billion and I have to be gone for 6 months, I won't do it. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's not on my radar anymore.
I appreciate you saying that, Shane. You know, it makes me think. I think it was the first source that I saw this was one of the books that Neil Donald Walsh wrote in the Conversations with God series, where you really reverse the paradigm of we're so entrained to have, do, be. So many people say, like, when I have $1 million, then I'll do what I love and then I'll be happy. And it really, you know, he talks about the be to have, you know, be it first. If you can be happy with what you have and then do from that place of happiness, you're probably going to have probably what you want and even more, and you're going to be able to enjoy it because you already have that foundation of happiness that you talked about. So I think that's so key. And you know, I just want to circle back to one thing that kind of like popped in my brain there while you were talking. You mentioned the topic of death, right? That we are here for a limited period of time. We're like this cosmic bubble that's here and then gone. But I would encourage you and our listeners to check out one of Neil Donald Walsh's books. It's like Julia's favorite book. It's called Home with God. And he talks about how, and a lot of indigenous elders talk about this, how we choose when we're born and who our parents are and our purpose, but we also choose when we die and how, and it's part of our spiritual journey. And I thought that was really interesting, but the book is really much deeper than that. And it brought a lot of peace to me because there can be this underlying current of fear in our culture. And I think not to poo-poo on marketers, but you know,
Yeah.
like the reality is a lot of marketing is based on pushing pain points and
Oh
inducing
yeah.
fear. And there's an
Yeah,
energy
absolutely.
associated with that, right? I had this inspired acronym that came, my brain works like acronyms. And for fear, I mean, we've heard actually was also from Neil Donald Walsh in one of his books, False Evidence Appearing Real. And I think it
Mm,
was Kanye who said, face everything and rise. Um,
yeah.
but a number of years ago, it was actually during the lockdowns and stuff, and I was inspired with the children's book that I was writing at that time. And this acronym came to me, feel everything and remember.
Mm,
And what you reminded our audience of today is really is rooted in that. It's like do what you love, do what makes you
yeah.
happy. We're here for a limited period of time, and it's really important to celebrate life now because so many business people, entrepreneurs, I think, can get in this habit of always future facing. And like you said, they can sacrifice 80 to 100 hours a week and not be aligned in their diet or their movement and disconnected from their family, all because they're trying to get to that future destination that maybe that's not even the best way for them to arrive, you know? And I don't think we all need private jets. I don't think that's going to make us all happy. Maybe a few people that came here to experience like that solo in the air feeling, but I think that really being at the heart of like who we are and being happy, like you said, man, such a powerful and important reminder. It's different for all of us, right? For
Yeah.
me, it's like drawing and painting and playing with my daughter and you know, it's different for everybody. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have our things, once again, I'm not here to tell you, these are the ways that you're going to make you happy. But guess what? Walking was something that when I started walking, I was like, man, this really helped clear things up. I'm listening to music, I listen to books. It's like, man, this is really my time. So,
Mm.
yeah, just figure out what makes you happy and try to do more of that. I know that's very cliche, but at the end of the day, you know what makes you happy. There was a thing about a point in your life where you're like, hey, I was happiest at that point. I can promise you it wasn't probably because you're making tons of money, right? I mean, because that, Biggie said it well, the more money, the more problems. I mean, I didn't realize that until I made more money. And then I'm like, man, I have a lot more problems when I have more money. It seems like, seem to be a lot happier over here. So I'm going to move a little bit over this way and really work on that again and understand what that means and how do I continue down that path. So yeah,
Mm.
this has been awesome, man.
Yeah, it has been awesome. Well, on that note, Shane, I'd love to ask you this one question before you um, fly off to meet more wonderful people and to enjoy time with your family. I love to ask people, and you have such a balanced perspective. So I'd love to hear this for you. Might challenge you a little bit. Maybe you've thought of this before, but if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world and you had an important message that everyone could hear, what would you say to everybody?
I would say probably if I had a microphone and I wanted people to say, I would say probably stay present. Also, the kind of touching on the death thing because of COVID and things that happened there. really value the time while you're here, right? We don't know when our time is up. And I don't mean that in a doomsday, like, oh my, but like, the problem is you can make all kinds of money, do all kinds of things, and then you can pass and be a very unhappy person. It's like, as you said, we don't know how long our time is on this world. It could be 1 year, 10 years, 20 years. It could be 120 years. We don't know.
Yeah.
So really value that time, right? Really, really stay present and really enjoy. If your thing is just working and that's what you enjoy doing, I'm not saying don't do that. But if that brings you joy, then great, that's awesome. But figure out what you can do to give back and figure out what you can do to stay present in the situation and how you can enjoy life. I mean, that really is the thing for me is like, you can go try to make more money and work harder and do this. And if that brings you happiness, that's awesome. But really, is that your source of truth when it comes to being happy? If it's not, then figure out what is, right? And because good things will happen if you're more grounded and you're more, connected with things. I believe that things, whether it be revenue, whether it be this, whether it be that, will come back tenfold to you, right? Oh, we got the daughter coming. Oh,
Yeah.
well, let me see. I can see it. Oh, hello, cutie. Oh my God, darling. How
This
are
is Shane.
you?
Can you say hi, Luciana? She's a
Hi.
little stuffed up, Shane. Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Speaking
I
of
was
that
sick over
presence and those,
Christmas.
oh, you were sick over the Christmas? Yeah, it's
Oh yeah.
a lot of people are under the weather. Anyway, man, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for coming on to say hi to everybody, Luciana. Uh, what,
Yes.
where can people find you, Shane? What's the best way of connecting with you?
Yeah, you can go on LinkedIn. You can just look at Shane Barker. Actually, it's LinkedIn. I think it's the / Shane Barker. You can follow me on Twitter at my personal website, shanebarker.com. We talk about a lot of marketing stuff. And then obviously TraceFuse.ai, where you can go in. If you're in the Amazon seller, you can take a look at that there. We have some free tools that people can use to try, see if they can remove reviews on their own where they wouldn't need us. Once again, those are the places. And anybody wants to reach out to me directly, just Shane at shanebarker.com. It's easy.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Well, really appreciate you having you on the show, Shane. Blessings to you and your family and to all
Thank
our
you.
listeners out there. And yeah, man, I wish you all the best in 2026 and beyond. And yeah, man, have a great day. I'm just going to
I
invite our
appreciate that.
daughter again to do our outro here. So have a wonderful rest of your day, brother.
All right, you too, man.
Thank you.
The moon is right, the spirit's up. We're here tonight, and that's enough. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. Simply having a wonderful Christmas time. The party's on, the feeling's here.
We wish you a
Have a new year. Have a new year.
Happy New Year! Can you say Merry Christmas, everybody?
Yeah.
Say it.
Have a new bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love you.
I love you.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and